What a incredible weekend of playoff football. Obviously, it is now Wednesday, so I'm not going to do too much rehashing on the weekend. I just got a couple takeaways before we move on to next week, talk about the teams that lost and all that other fun stuff. First, obviously, the Texans and the Ravens. And my main takeaway from this game was the Ravens defense. You know, this is a Steelers Mike Tomlin phrase, but I think it applies to the Ravens. The standard is the standard. I've been watching Ravens football my entire life. My older brother, not only is he my favorite person on the planet, he is also a Ravens fan. My whole life, regardless of the year, there's a certain that's always with the Ravens. It doesn't matter the year, doesn't matter the personnel, doesn't matter the coach. Somehow, some way, the Ravens defense has that same intensity. And I say this with no exaggeration. This might be the best one since that 2000 team, because I'm watching against this Bobby Slowick offense for the Texans and against CJ Stroud. Bill Callahan was just hired for the Tennessee Titans head coaching job, right? And that was supposed to be Bobby Slowick's job. He was the front runner. After playing the Ravens, the Titans were like, you know what? Maybe we should reconsider this. The Ravens are taking away employment opportunities. There's so many purple jerseys flying to the football every single play. Mike Macdonald, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, the moment this season is over, he's going to be the head coach of somebody's team. So Ravens better win the goddamn Super Bowl, because he ain't coming back next year. Because the balance between a team that flies to the football and is also disciplined enough to not fall for all the eye candy of these Shanahanian systems that Bobby Slowick is also off that Shanahan tree, it doesn't happen, which is why I gotta shoot CJ a lot of bail. Granted, I know you lose, the first thing you do is blame the quarterback. I'm Mr. Wins the quarterbacks, that guy, but that's not a catch-all, end-all, be-all statement. It's case by case. And for anyone blaming CJ for that loss, I would like you to go back and watch that game and watch every completion he had was a, damn, first read's not there. Pressure's coming. I got to get out this pocket and make something happen. Every single one. But since we're on the subject of quarterbacks, you've probably heard ad nauseum how great Lamar Jackson was. So y'all know how I feel about Lamar Jackson on this podcast. Love him to death. We're going to talk about that more when we preview the conference championship. Guys, women, and the Technicolor rainbow in between. If you are still on the anti-Lamar Jackson train, I am begging and pleading with you, if it's not for racist reasons. If not, fuck you, you're never going to see the light of day. You are doing yourself a disservice. Give it up. Just enjoy what you're watching. I can't think of anything on this planet that I hate enough that it will deprive me of watching something as fun as it is to watch Lamar Jackson. Like, come on now. You're watching a quarterback where even in the pocket, he's able to slice and dice you. He is elevated to the fact where that is a weapon on par with pretty much every quarterback in the league. And that's not even the thing he does best. And when he does do the thing he does best, which is run in space, the panic it causes a defense, I can only compare it to when Steph Curry's on the Warriors and every time he moves, the entire defense is like, holy shit, where's he going? Because he's running around the court the entire time trying to get an open three. But yes, I implore you, please, dog, again, this is only for the sane-minded. Let it go. Enjoy watching Lamar Jackson. You are doing yourself a disservice. That's enough for Texas Ravens. We're going to talk about Texas a little more when we get to playoff losers. For the Green Bay Packers versus the San Francisco 49ers and NBA season, during the Kings and Warriors series, I talked about something by the name of young nigga syndrome. One day I'll find a better term to call it, but to my current lexicon, there's no better way I can describe it than young nigga syndrome. And here's why. When young teams get in a big spot against a team that's been there before-ish, that doesn't even necessarily mean this team has won a Super Bowl before. It's just a team that's been in big spots. They don't necessarily have what it takes to close it and really bring it home. For the Kings, it was over the course of 7 games, but for the Packers, it was over the course of this game. What do I mean by that? So the Packers go up 21-14 with 5 minutes and 28 seconds left in the third quarter. They had that lead going into the fourth quarter, but the first play of the fourth quarter was the 49ers kicking a field goal, making it 17-21, but the point still stands. The last 4 possessions for the Packers, they had 4 chances to put this game away. This is how those possessions went. The first one was the interception, which led to the field goal drive that the 49ers got. The next one was a punt. The next one was a missed field goal by the rookie kicker. And the last one was the interception where Jordan Love just threw the ball all the way across his body for reasons that are still unclear. The Niners were 0-30 going into those type of situations when they're down, I think it was 7 or more or 5 or more. When they don't have a lead going into the fourth quarter, they have never won a game until that game. Now, I want us to compare that to the Baltimore Ravens drive. The Baltimore Ravens are up 17-10 at the start of the fourth quarter. They know if they score on this drive, going up 24-10 against that young Texans team, the game is over. They know that. The Texans know that. So how did the Ravens respond? 12 plays, 93 yards, 7 minutes drive. They broke the Texans. They broke them. Next drive, Texans go 3 and out. Ravens score again. Final score 31-10. Because the Ravens have been in that spot before. Say what you want about Lamar's playoff record, but taking all them L's taught him, hey, I need to know how to close these things out. And that drive was a close them out drive. The Packers one day will be able to close that game. And a lot of it is going to be due to the fact that they just lost. But that's enough on the Packers. On the 49ers, Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan sure tried their best to give the Packers this game. Jesus Christ. Now, the thing with Brock Purdy that I think we all miss is his career trajectory and the role he needs to play have never been aligned. Because he came in as an undrafted rookie last year, had to be thrown in the lineup because all the other quarterbacks got hurt. Right? And he far exceeded expectations. And when you're in a position of exceeding expectations, that's when we love you the most as fans and as media, right? But since you're on a Super Bowl roster, that honeymoon phase ends quickly because the question is no longer, wow, this undrafted rookie's really good. How good can he be in the future? We don't care about your future anymore. You have to win this Super Bowl now. And that's the position Brock Purdy is in right now. And a lot of it's fair. That is a Super Bowl roster, and a lot of that is what placates to his success. But I feel like at some points we forget Brock Purdy's played 25 games. He was the last pick in the draft, bro. If CJ Stroud puts up the numbers Brock Purdy had this year and has a season that Brock Purdy had this year, you will not hear a goddamn thing about the supporting cast around him, about Bobby Slowick's play calling. You won't hear none of that. All we are going to talk about is how great CJ Stroud is. But a lot of it really is expectation. We don't expect CJ Stroud to win a Super Bowl yet because he's not in that position. Brock Purdy is on a Super Bowl team, but he may not be a Super Bowl player yet. We don't know that for sure because they're still in the playoffs. Who knows? But you look at that game we just watched, it's kind of hard to make that argument. And Kyle Shanahan did not help him in the slightest because he kind of feels the way I do because he can't decide whether he believes in Brock Purdy or not. Brock Purdy had 39 pass attempts during that game in the rain where it became very clear very quickly that he cannot grip this football to move it down the field. So in those 39 pass attempts, a lot of it was dump offs. A lot of it was screens and 5-yard ends and things of that nature. And my thing is, okay, so you acknowledge that he can't get the ball down the field right now, right? But you're still putting him out there to continuously try to get the ball out of his hands to throw it when you have Christian fucking McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey only had 17 carries that whole game. A lot of you on the Brock Purdy side are going to try to vindicate and be like, oh, but that final drive. The final drive was great, but you cannot ignore the fact that they would not have needed that final drive if he wasn't playing like shit. All right, so next game, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. My biggest takeaway from this game, Jared Goff was blitzed 24 times against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to guess the amount of times that he was sacked? 0. Fat ass goose egg. They never got him. And that was the key to that game. We knew Jared Goff struggles under pressure. We have to figure out an answer to this pressure, to this blitz that Tampa Bay sends, or we are fucked and we will lose this game. Ben Johnson pulled that shit off. The offensive line pulled it off. I got to shout out Frank Ragnow, the center for the Lions, who messed up shoulder, messed up ankle, hurt his knee, still kept thugging it out. Kept playing in the game with Vita Vea in front of him. That's 350 pounds of superhuman that he had to deal with. Still went right out there and kept it thugging. And I have to say this about Dan Campbell. It's coach hiring season, right? So a lot of you guys are looking for new coaches as it sets. And I know y'all want the flashy play caller. Y'all want the golden boys. All that shit's cute. But if you want to change around some culture, give me the kneecap biter. Give me that guy. You see the Dan Campbell speeches. You see the way this team absolutely adores this man. If you're going to turn around a franchise like the Lions, ain't a scheme in the world that gets you to this point. And I love Ben Johnson. I just gave him his props the last segment. I love Ben Johnson. If you want to change a culture, we finna bite some kneecaps. And this is where the analytics nerds, I think, get it wrong because they try to act like that doesn't matter. No, bruh, that matters. You see it. Jared Goff was a broken man when he got to Detroit. When it started off bad. But as you can see, the last season and a half, it's turned around because of that culture they're setting. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, the GM, who, if he doesn't get executive of the year, the NAACP might need to be called in because, oh boy, he cooking. Just based off of getting Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs in the same draft alone, that man is cooking. But that's what I'm talking about. You need an entire full-blown culture change. Like, I look at the Washington Commanders right now. I look at the Los Angeles Chargers right now. Hell, I look at the Patriots right now. We didn't go get a scheme guy. Love Gerard Mayo. Gerard Mayo is a linebacker. He's a culture guy. D'Amico Ryans, yeah, he's a good defensive scheme guy. He calls the plays and whatnot, but he's a culture guy. Give me the culture guy every time. We can find people to call plays. Those guys grow on trees these days, apparently. And y'all are willing to call any young white man who calls plays a genius. So, hey, we can find one of those. Guys that can set a culture that these players can actually believe in and cling to their every words. Yeah, nah, you don't get that every day. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills, the game of the week. Everyone was looking forward to it. Game of the day, game of the weekend, game of the year. The Bills started off that game absolutely gashing the Kansas City Chiefs on the ground. I'm reading a Warren Sharp tweet right here. The Bills were absolutely destroying the Chiefs on the ground. They had 94 rushing yards at 6.3 yards a carry with 43 minutes remaining in the game. They ended up going 182 total yards on 39 carries. I'm going to sound like such an offensive lineman when I say this, but here's where they lost the game. They stopped running the goddamn ball. When the Chiefs went up 27-24, it was 14 minutes left in the game. They had 169 yards at that point, 33 carries. They were getting 5.1 yards a carry at that point. They only rushed the ball 6 more times. One of them were the Damar Hamlin fake punt, but gotta count it. 3 of them were a Josh Allen scramble, one of which was the fumble that, by the grace of God, they were able to recover. And that's kind of what, in my preview, I said Josh Allen's going to refer to who he's always been in those pressurized moments. Late in the game, he wants the ball in his hands and he wants to play hero ball. Just told you, with 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter, after you've been whooping their ass in a run game all game long, they had 3 more possessions to end that game. Turnover on downs, punt, missed field goal. But even if they would have made that field goal, or if he would have hit Stephon Diggs or that shot to the end zone, all they would have done was give Mahomes more time to go beat him again. If the field goal was made, there was 1:47 left in the game. That's what? 1:34 more than it took him to beat y'all last time? That's what I'm saying. That needed to be a ball control drive. You needed to establish a run that game. But that's not how the Josh Allen thing works. And that's not me saying he's at fault for losing the game. Again, if you listen to this podcast, you know I'm not a blame one person for a loss. I'm not a blame one person for a loss. That's not how the game works. But I could have told you from the get-go, if you would have asked me, hey, going into the fourth quarter, the run game's working all game long, but this is a gotta have it drive and they have a shit ton of time left on the clock. How do you think this is going to go? I'm like, oh, the only person running this ball is Josh Allen. Their last 2 rush attempts were by Josh Allen. On the Chiefs side, though, look, man, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Like, I'm going to talk about them more when we get to the conference preview, but the Chiefs are the Chiefs. It is what it is. We know they were going to win that game. The whole crux of me picking the Chiefs, I had to frame it as I don't think Josh Allen has it. But really it came down to, do I really expect Josh Allen to be able to overcome this Chiefs defense? And do I trust that more than I trust Patrick Mahomes' ability to figure this shit out and make just enough plays to win this game? The answer to that was obvious.